The gymnasium went silent the moment his fist connected with her jaw. 200 recruits froze mid-breath. Dust hung suspended in the shafts of morning light pouring through the high windows, and for one terrible second, nobody moved. Not the instructors along the wall, not the recruit standing beside her with his hand still raised in a gesture that came half a heartbeat too late to stop it. Captain Elena Voss staggered back, tasting copper, her vision blurring white at the edges. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Sergeant Daniel Reyes stood over her, his knuckles still stinging, his chest heaving with something that looked like rage but was already curdling into horror. He hadn't meant to hit that hard. He hadn't meant to hit her at all. Not really. Not in the part of his mind that still belonged to the boy who'd once carried his little sister on his shoulders through a cornfield in Ohio. But something in him had snapped during the drill, some old wound reopened by her calm, unshakable competence, and his hand had moved before his conscience could catch up. Elena pressed her palm to her jaw. Her eyes watered, not from pain alone, but from the particular sting of humiliation witnessed by 200 people who would now never look at her the same way. Recruit Michael Johnson was already at her side, one hand hovering near her shoulder, not quite touching, torn between the instinct to protect and the fear of making things worse. "Ma'am," he whispered. "Are you?" "I'm fine," she said, though her voice cracked on the second word. Reyes's fist dropped to his sides. The silence in the room had weight now, pressing down like humidity before a storm. Somewhere behind him, a recruit shifted his boots against the gym floor, and the sound seemed thunderous. That night, Reyes found her outside the barracks, sitting alone on a concrete step, the sky bruised purple with the last light of dusk. He almost turned back. Almost. But something, shame, maybe, or the last thread of the man he still hoped he could be, pushed him forward. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said, his voice low and unsteady. "I'm asking you not to file it. Please. 10 years I've given this uniform. One report ends all of it." Elena studied him for a long moment. She thought about the ice already spreading along her jaw, about the recruits who'd watched her go down in front of the whole company, about the silent question in Michael's eyes when he'd walked her to medical. "What will you do?" She thought she already knew her answer. She was wrong, because what haunted her wasn't the punch. It was the look on Reyes's face in that half-second afterward. Not triumph, not even anger anymore, but a man watching himself do something he couldn't take back. She had seen that look before, on her own father, the night before he finally got help. She recognized the shape of a person drowning quietly for years before anyone noticed the water was over his head. Still, a report existed for a reason. Discipline wasn't cruelty. It was the thing that kept 200 recruits safe from men who couldn't control their fists. If she let this go, what precedent did she set? What did it say to every other officer who'd ever been struck, dismissed, silenced? The moral weight of it kept her awake long past midnight, staring at the ceiling of her quarters, turning the decision over like a stone in her palm. In the morning, she requested a meeting, not with the disciplinary board, but with Reyes and the base commander together. Word spread through the company before breakfast was even served. Recruits whispered in the mess hall. Some assumed she'd end his career outright. Others, quieter, hoped for something else, though none dared say it aloud. When Elena walked into that office, her jaw still faintly discolored, the room fell into the same taut stillness that had gripped the gymnasium the day before. She didn't ask for his discharge. She asked for accountability, formal counseling, a suspension from command duties, mandatory anger and stress evaluation, but she stopped short of ending him. People don't become who they are supposed to be by having every door slammed shut behind their worst moment, she said. But moments like this one need to matter. He has to earn his way back. Slowly. Honestly. Reyes sat frozen, blinking hard, unable to speak. 10 years of pride and fear collapsed into something smaller and more human. Gratitude he didn't feel he deserved. Word of her decision moved through the base like wind through dry grass. Recruits who'd once seen her only as calm and unreadable now saw something else entirely. A woman who understood that justice and mercy were not opposites, but partners walking the same difficult road. Months later, on a gray morning during a live-fire exercise, it was Reyes who pulled a struggling recruit from a collapsing trench wall, hauling him up with the same hands that had once struck his commanding officer. Elena watched from a distance, saying nothing, needing to say nothing. Because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits, and it finds its way back, often through the very people we thought had lost the ability to give it. And somewhere in a sunlit gymnasium months earlier, if you had looked closely enough at the dust hanging in that terrible silence, you might have seen the exact moment a woman chose to build a bridge instead of burning one down. If this story moved you, tell me, have you ever had to choose between justice and mercy? Share your story below. And if you believe second chances matter, subscribe for more stories that remind us who we can still become.